tell you a little bit about myself. I have worked at Denton Regional since 2000, and I work in the clinical nutrition department, which is seeing inpatients, but I also work in an outpatient clinic, and I see mainly bariatric patients before they have surgery for weight loss, and I also see pediatric weight management patients. So as I go through this, if you have any questions, feel free to stop and ask me. Okay? We're going to talk about fad diets today, kind of nutrition myths and fad diets. Okay, if you search diet or fad diets, you get way over 1 million hits. There are so many diets out there. It's mind-boggling. I don't know about all these diets. I always ask my patients, the ones that come on the outpatient, what works for them, trying to get an understanding of what they do. But you do. I mean, there's so much stuff out there. There's so much misinformation, too. It's very confusing. Okay, how to spot a nutrition fad. Number one, it warns you of danger from a single product or regimen. The one that pops into my head, example of this, is the carbohydrates. They're bad for you. Anytime they say something is one thing, it's going to hurt you or harm you, that's kind of a red flag that it may be a type of fad. They promise a quick fix. I mean, you see this all the time, commercials and magazine ads. You're going to lose 30 pounds in 30 days. That sounds really, really good, but really our safe weight loss is 1 to 2 pounds a week. Simplistic conclusions drawn from a complex study. They kind of confuse you with big terms, but then there's a simplistic diet suggestion on there. Recommendations based on a single study. A lot of the recommendations we make to our patients are based on studies over years and years and years of research. It's not based on one study that came out and said people that eat carbohydrates won't gain weight. I mean, just because a study showed that doesn't mean that that's the way it really is. Dramatic statements that are refuted by reputable scientific organizations. Some of the fad diets, like the American Heart Association, would not be okay with. Like, for example, Atkins, which I don't know if it's as popular anymore, but it was over the years. There's a lot of saturated fat in that diet, a lot of high protein, which the American Heart Association wouldn't be okay with. Any questions so far? Okay. Some more ways to spot a fad. List of good and bad foods. I don't think there's any such thing as a bad food. There are good foods, but if they're going to list these are the good foods and these are the bad foods, there's a red flag. Recommendations to help sell a product. If somebody's trying to sell you something, that's a red flag. Patients come to me, I'm not trying to sell them a supplement, sell anything to them, just trying to help them with what they're doing. So that's a red flag. Recommendations based on studies published without review from other researchers. For a study to be valid, they have to be reviewed by other researchers. Recommendations from studies that ignore differences among individual groups. Everybody's different, groups are different if they're ignoring that. And eliminating one or more of the 5 food groups. A lot of the fad diets do that. So, any questions about that? Nope. So staying away from fad diets. Steer clear of any diet plans, pills, or products that make the following claims. Again, the rapid weight loss. I think I see commercials all the time. There may be some doctor-supervised diets. OptiFast maybe is one of them. That if the doctor is following you, some of these liquid diets, that may be okay as long as you're being followed. But anything that promises this rapid weight loss, it probably isn't good for you. Quantities and limitations. Specific food combinations, like you can't eat carbs with protein or white food with brown food or whatever they say. So be careful about that. Rigid menus. That's the hardest thing about dieting is if you're on a diet, you got this rigid menu to follow, and it may not be realistic in the real world. And no need to exercise. Fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at this, studies do show that people that are successful with long-term weight loss and maintenance, they do both diet and exercise. So exercise, just, even as much as taking the stairs instead of the elevator, parking your car a little farther away, just kind of lifestyle things throughout the day. But you do have to exercise. Okay, I was going to go over some nutrition facts versus fiction. This is one that you may already know. Fresh fruits and vegetables are healthier than frozen or canned. That's not necessarily true. They can be just as healthy. Body weight is a reliable indicator of a healthful diet. This is not necessarily true. You can have a very skinny person who's inactive and eats a terrible diet, and they're unhealthy versus somebody who's maybe a little bit overweight, but they're eating healthy and they're exercising. So not necessarily. Also BMI, we calculate BMI on patients in the hospital to determine their health risk. Everybody probably has seen this and thought, oh no, I'm within this level. But body mass plays a role in this. Men, often their BMIs are higher because they have more lean muscle. Somebody like a professional football player is going to be in the obese category because his weight versus height is his BMI is high. Does that make sense? Muscle weighs more than fat, and so his BMI may be high. So you got to look at the whole picture of somebody. Eating before bedtime is fattening. Not necessarily either. It's really a calorie thing. You don't want to not eat all day long and then eat a ton of food at night, because skipping meals can lead to your metabolism slowing down. But just eating regular meals and then having an evening at night is not necessarily going to cause you to gain weight. I've heard people say they stop eating after 6, they lose weight. Well, if you were eating after 6 a bunch of fatty foods, or you were snacking a whole bunch, just because you cut the calories at that point could result in the weight loss. Does that make sense? Okay. Eating sugar causes diabetes. This is a myth. A myth. Sugar does not cause diabetes. It's a result of many factors: weight, genetics, overeating, which it leads to being overweight, can cause diabetes, not necessarily sugar. Now, if you're diabetic, we do watch our sugar and our carbohydrate intake. And then back to the fad diets. A myth. Occasionally, a fad diet is a safe way to quickly lose weight. Many fad diets are developed by people with no scientific or health background, so some fad diets can even be considered harmful to people with certain health problems. So if you have any health issues and you're going on some of these diets, it could be harmful. Okay, now we're going to go into the specific diets. And what I have for you, I have some slides. I kind of grouped them together. Here we go. Food-specific diets. The ones that came to mind for me were like grapefruit diet. That's been around for years. Cabbage soup diet, Hollywood diet. I think the Hollywood diet, I've seen it in magazines. It's like the juice stuff you drink. So you're eating one food, you're losing weight, or don't you like eat a whole bunch of... Anybody ever done any of these? Want to share? No? So you're eating you're drinking the juice, you're eating the grapefruit, you're eating the cabbage soup. What's good about this? Not much. What's bad? It does result in weight loss because of calorie cutting, but it does not promote healthy eating habits. And the ugly about it, it's very unbalanced. It's not something that you'll lose weight, but you're going to gain it back when you start eating normal. So, okay, high protein, low carb diets. These aren't as popular anymore, but the Atkins was big time years ago. South Beach, Zone. There's some things that are good and bad about all of these. Okay, what's good about them? They do promote weight loss initially. They stress vegetable intake. The vegetables are very good for you. Our veggies are pretty low in calories. I see some people eating salads and they fill you up. So that's good. And they do teach some of them. I like the South Beach. I actually read that book. I like it. But it teaches about better carbohydrates. So instead of eating the white bread, you're eating the whole wheat bread. The white pasta, the whole wheat pasta. So that's good. Now Atkins, I think you're not even supposed to have carbohydrates at all until a point that they give you so much time. I think the South Beach in the beginning, too, you really cut it. The bad about it, it's restrictive. You must follow the diet long term. There's a high incidence of weight gain in those who fail, and they can be high in saturated fat. I mentioned in the beginning about the Heart Association not liking this one because it's high in saturated fat. And I know they were doing some studies on this to determine I think they said it maybe improved lipid levels. Honestly, don't know the conclusion of those. I think they're ongoing.